Hello everyone. Thought I'd take some time today to share a Zerto 4.5 to 5.0 upgrade video. Essentially, this is the process that you would take to basically avoid any pitfalls when going from 4.5 to update 5, or version 4.5 rather. So the first thing you're going to want to do is check to make sure you are on 4.5. You can upgrade from 4.0 as well. 3.5 you do need to upgrade to 4.0 and then 4.5 before you can go to 5.0. So just remember that Zerto is essentially compatible with one major version older and one major version newer. So essentially you will have to do a step upgrade if you are several versions behind. You can check your version by either coming up here to these top three little bars, or I believe there's a cog in the older versions up in the top right corner. Come down to about, and then in that menu, you'll see what version, what build number you're on. So to get started, make sure there's no other alarms or anything going on that would prevent a successful upgrade. And basically the first thing to do is to upgrade your Zerto Manager. So I have my Zerto Manager open over here. I have the old version 4.5 update 4 that I had installed. We'll go ahead and install 5.0. So we'll go ahead and extract the 5.0 package. And then you'll see two files, essentially a checksum file and then the installer file. You want to go ahead and run the installer. And the installation, or the upgrade rather, is pretty simple. It should detect that it is an upgrade up here at the top, not a new install. You can go ahead and hit next. It's going to verify that you accept the EULA. Hit next again. If you want to use Zerto Mobile, so there's an Android and an iPhone application that you can use to essentially view alerts, statuses, stuff like that. If you want to be able to use that, you need to make sure that this is checked here. Go ahead and hit next. It's going to validate that everything is still good in your environment. That way we can talk to VMware and all that good stuff. Once all those are green, go ahead and hit run. This is upgrading the Zerto Virtual Manager portion. I'm going to go ahead and pause once this gets started here, and then we'll come back, verify that the update worked properly, and then we'll do the VRAs as well. So we'll be right back. Alright, so now that we have the upgrade completed, we can go ahead and check to open the interface if you want to. It will take it a minute because the services are starting in the background. So for example, if I come over here and I hit refresh, it's probably going to tell me that, it's loading. Click here to refresh. So we'll head back over here. We can go ahead and hit done. We are done with this. You can delete this application if you'd like. I usually leave them around for a little while. They're not that big, so I like to keep them around in case I ever need to do a reinstall or something like that. So we're done with Zerto Manager. We'll go ahead and close out of that guy. We'll go ahead and log back into the interface to make sure everything looks good. And we have one warning, which is normal. Basically, what it's doing is it's telling us that our VRAs are not up to date. So we come over to the Setup tab. We look in here; they're all green, but essentially the VRA version says outdated now. What that's telling us is that our VRAs are version 4.5. Our Zerto Manager is 5.0. Zerto can run like this, but it's not recommended. I mean, you should obviously keep the same VRA version as the Zerto Manager. But before we go ahead and upgrade, I want to show you kind of what's going on in my environment. so that you can properly plan for how you do your VRA upgrades. How you do those can affect the synchronization of the VPGs they're servicing. If you notice, I made it kind of simple. Each of my VRAs has one VPG assigned to it, one virtual machine in that VPG. This is just because it's for demonstration purposes. Yours are going to have other numbers here. There may be several. Essentially, the first host here, host number 101, is basically not running anything that you can see, just the VRA, because it's a destination for a VPG. My other two hosts are running virtual machines, this DB1 and DB2. So why I did it this way, but DB1 is on host 3, DB2 is on host 2, and those are source VRAs. So basically, these are the live VMs, and they're replicating over to my Boston site. So when we upgrade the VRAs on 2 and 3, we need to take a little extra care so that we don't basically force a delta sync on those. Bitmap syncs will happen if you plan ahead right, and I'll show you what happens when it delta syncs versus a bitmap sync. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to evacuate this DB1 VM off of this host when we do the VRA upgrade so that we don't cause a delta sync. But let's go ahead and we'll start with host 101. Remember, this guy is just a destination, so this would be like upgrading the VRAs at a pure DR site. We can go ahead and just click on that host here in the background, and we come up to More, and we say Upgrade. We can say, yep, this is the one we want to do. It's currently on 4.5, and there is an upgrade available. Let's go ahead and do that. It says we're going to upgrade to 5.0, build 629. And then if we come back over here to vCenter, we'll see that VMware goes ahead and powers that guy off for us. We're going to go ahead and do the upgrade, and then it'll power back on. Best place to watch is in here inside of Zerto. We'll tell you when that's done. Because this is just a destination VRA, what you'll notice is that any VPGs that are targeting that do go into an error state. But not to worry, just ignore those until the upgrade is finished. And I will go ahead and jump into the monitoring tab here so that we can watch the running task. And then as soon as this guy's done, I'll unpause, and then we'll look at what's happened since then. Hey guys, unpaused a little early here. What I wanted to show you was that there's a couple things that may throw you off here. You may actually see inside of VMware, if you're watching in there, that we try to delete a file, but it basically says that the file was not found. That is normal. Basically, we're trying to verify that certain files no longer exist. If they do, we're going to delete them. If they don't, then we just get an error in VMware. That's normal, though. The next things that you'll see are a stop service, open firewall port, and then a deploy and OVF template. In your inventory, you'll see that we have a clone, basically, of the original one. And what we're doing is we're basically deploying a new VRA, copying the config over to the new one, and then we're going to basically replace the old one with the new one. So if you notice, we just marked it as being a managed VM. We're going to move that configuration around, and when we delete the old one, and then we power the new one back on. So just notice that, or just know, I should say, that there's a bunch of stuff that's going to happen in here. If you see things that fail, the upgrade is not failing. That's to be expected. But anyway, like I said, just keep an eye inside of Zerto. Once that guy says completed over here, then your new VRA should be good to go, and you can proceed with the other ones. Alright, as you can see here, the VRA just powered on. Our task here in the background just said completed. If I come back into my VPG, still in an error state, but again, remember that it's an impound VPG. Tried to name them just so we could kind of see what was going on here. as soon as that VRA is back online and basically ready to receive data, this is going to go from an error state back into like a normal state. Here's the real-time counter. So since that VRA went offline, it's been about 5 minutes almost. So that gives you an idea of how long it takes to upgrade the VRAs. And basically right now what we're doing is we're just waiting on that guy to finish booting up. So as soon as it's booted up, oh, there it is. So you notice there was no delta sync, there's no bitmap sync. If it takes you longer than 10-15 minutes, you may see a bitmap sync, but regardless, you won't see a delta sync. The only time that you'll see either a bitmap or a delta sync with the 5.0 upgrade is at the source side VRA. So basically, that's why I saved these two guys for last. So these are sourced on my side that's getting upgraded. They're going over to my Boston site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 VRA upgrades. I'm going to do them 2 different ways. I'm going to do this DB2. I'm not going to move the production VM off that host while I do the VRA upgrade. I'm going to show you that it causes a delta sync. Again, if you have a really fast WAN connection, that may not be a big deal. But if you don't have a fast WAN connection, I'll show you how to avoid that with the DB1 upgrade. So there you go. The top one, you notice how it kind of said recovery is possible. Again, it's still trying to figure things out. Now that it's all caught back up, you see the RPO is back down to kind of a normal time frame, and everything's happy in that guy. So again, you see the spike in the RPO while we were doing the upgrade. Now everything's back to normal. Good to go. We can do failovers or whatever we need to do. Okay. So now we'll do the one that is covering DB2 so that we can see that delta sync happen. DB2 is targeted on host 102. So I'll go ahead and select 102. I'm going to tell it to do an upgrade just like before. And as you can see, we're actually going to tell you how much is going to be delta synced. So you're going to know that you're going to have to delta sync 40 gigabytes of disk due to this VRA rebooting. And this again is because over here in VMware, host 2, where this VRA lives, this guy right here, has a virtual machine running on it. So if we don't move this VM off and we do this upgrade, we're going to cause a delta sync. So I'll go ahead and click continue, and we'll see what happens here. All right. So VRA just powered back on. Things are still kind of coming up and getting ready. It's not quite joined back into the the Zerto manager yet. Literally took it, let's see here, about 4, almost 5 minutes. So as you can tell, it's pretty consistent on the amount of time it takes. If we come back over here, we'll wait till it goes green. Once it goes green, what we'll do is we'll flip back over to the VPG tab, and I will show you how it's doing that sync that we talked about, the Delta sync. Again, if you don't evacuate your production VMs from, there it went green, from the host that you're upgrading, basically you will cause a sync here. As you can see, the interface is bitmap syncing at first. But basically what it's doing is it's going through and saying, hey, you know what, we actually can't bitmap sync. We didn't have a bitmap to check. So then what you'll see is you'll see it kick over and start doing a delta sync. So it is a little, I don't know, confusing at first because you'll see it start a bitmap sync. But you got to remember what we did there was we upgraded our kernel module as well. The kernel module is what's tracking our changes while the VRA is offline. Therefore, if we take the kernel module away, we no longer have a bitmap sync, or a bitmap to do a bitmap sync, I should say. So if you want to do bitmap syncs, you got to get the workloads off of a host that's doing an upgrade. Again, you know, if you have a fast link, if your storage isn't, you know, kind of already on the tipping point of being overworked, this may not be a big deal, because remember, you're only down for 5 minutes, or the synchronization is only stopped for 5 minutes. So depending on how much data that your VM is going to generate in that 5-minute time period, you know, we're going to read through this data pretty quick. Remember, this is a nested lab, so 100 megabytes is about as quick as you're going to see in this lab. But you know, if you have fiber channel storage or something, or you know, 10 gig iSCSI or whatever, you know, Delta syncs are going to move along pretty quickly. But again, if it's like a SQL VM that generates 20 or 30 gigabytes of change in 5 minutes, which would be crazy, but could happen, you know, this could take quite a bit of time to do. So if you want to avoid Delta syncs, I'll show you how to do that on the third host that we're going to upgrade, which is this 103 host right here. DB1 is on that guy. So it's pretty simple to avoid this, right? All you need to do is basically migrate this VM to a different host or shut it down. Obviously, you probably don't want to shut it down, so what we'll do is we'll migrate it over to host number 101 and get him off of 103. As soon as it's off of this host, then we'll go into Zerto. Alright, there it's all gone. So now I can come back into the setup tab. We'll click 103, tell it to do an upgrade. Says that it's going to do a 40 gig Delta sync. My guess is that's only because it hasn't pulled the inventory to realize that that VM is no longer there. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and we'll click OK. Again, same process. It's going to take about 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and pause while this is doing its thing here. And then we'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and chime back in here while it's finishing up. One of the things that you'll notice here in the background, when you do an upgrade to a VRA that doesn't have anything that it's protecting, you notice one, that the number of VMs and VPGs goes to 0. The other thing you'll notice is that the status icon doesn't turn red, it stays yellow. And again, that's simply because basically we're not going to mess anything up by upgrading this guy right now, because there's nobody on it. So this one has been down, we're almost up to 5 minutes, put it that way. So it's just getting ready to start the kernel service again, the driver, and probably another 2 minutes, and it'll be up and running. And then we'll go ahead and vMotion DB1, the guy that we vMotioned off of 103 before. Go ahead and vMotion it back on to 103. Alright, looks like the VRA is powered on, and we're just waiting on it to sync back into the Zerto manager, and we will be all set. One thing you want to do is not vMotion your VMs back over to a host where the VRA is still kind of hanging out, not there yet. If you do, it's not the end of the world. The driver's already running in the kernel, so you will only cause a bitmap sync. But essentially, if you just give it a minute until everything's green like it is now, then you're not going to cause that. So right now, if I come back in, you notice that it's still delta syncing DB2. My SLA on DB1 is still 7 seconds because if you remember, we vMotioned him over to host 101. That's why it says 2 up there before we started the 103 upgrade. Now that the 103 upgrade is finished, we'll go ahead and migrate DB1 back over to host number 103. That guy there. The VRA, the kernel module, everything is good to go. It's all been upgraded. So now we just use VMware to go ahead and put that VM back on that host. There it is. And if we go back in here to the VPG, you'll notice that DB1, again, it's never delta synced. It's never had that big spike up to 5 minutes, simply because we avoided all that by having it vMotioned to a host that was already upgraded. If I come into my settings tab, you'll see now that everybody's back to the same way it was before, all 111. And yeah, DB1, no delta sync, no bitmap sync, no anything, simply because we took the time to vMotion some things around. And then DB2, it's still doing a delta sync. It's taken at least 5 minutes because that's how long it took to upgrade 103's VRA. So again, if you want to avoid this will automatically fix itself. It's not the end of the world. But if you don't like seeing these, then make sure you just take a little time, evacuate all the production VMs off of a host, and you'll be good to go. So anyway, if you have any questions, always contact Zerto support. It's always better to do it before than after. But they're there to help you. If you have any questions for me, there's an ask button up at the top of my blog. So you can either click ask a question up here. Feel free to fill out this form. It's kind of a more private way than a comment. Basically, it comes to my email. I'll email you back. If you'd rather just post a comment, then by all means you can do that as well. And anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for reading my blog. Have a good day.